Greetings and welcome. This is Zach, or Zakkhaios, however you want to say it. I have been a balance druid for about 13 years now, strictly. Not counting the times the guild needed a resto druid, but we won't talk about that. But here I am on the Midnight Alpha, and I want to be here to kind of talk about the upcoming changes for the balance druid. And here we are in the house I have currently made, at least in the living room of it. But I got me a nice fireplace spot to sit and talk to you guys about. Don't ask why I'm not sitting. Balance druid stuff. Right, but let's go ahead and we'll start with what we're all here for. The talents. Balance druid has had a massive change in its overall gameplay for Midnight. And we'll just kind of go through a little bit of everything here. But we'll start over here on the druid side. Our standard class, everything kind of thing. Not a whole lot has changed over here. There's been some stuff, minor stuff here and there. But, you have your stuff like Rake, Grievous Wounds, Starfire, Star Surge, Moon Conform, Sunfire. They got rid of the other Sunfire bonus thing there. So that must have been baked in. Nurturing Instinct. They got rid of the immediate 30, instant cast 30% heal, which I'm sad about. But they did give us Gift of the Wild, which is a Mark of the Wild is 100% more effective on you. Which, Mark of the Wild is 3% versatility for the raid. So we get 6% versatility. Nothing to scoff about. Forest Walk, casting Regrowth, increase your movement speed. Innervate. All your inspiration, like Kara's inspirations, all that stuff. Circle of Heavens, increase my damage. Wild Charge and Sprint over there, all the way over on this side. But yeah, nothing too much changed over here. There's still Fluid Form that I never used. But let's go over into the meat of what has changed for Balance Druid. So the biggest change is that Eclipse is no longer a passive. Eclipse is now something that we can control on its own. It says passive there, but it is actually a spell that we control. So, beyond what Eclipse does, it itself has not changed. But now, if you look down here at my bar here, we have Eclipse. And we'll do a field trip out to the target dummy in just a little bit to really show it off. But we can now trigger an Eclipse whenever we want, and it is based on whatever the last elemental spell we have casted, which is, of course, Wrath or Starfire. Currently, it is in Solar Eclipse because that's its default, and I would have casted Wrath last. But if I had cast Starfire beforehand, this spell would have changed into Lunar Eclipse. And then to enter an Eclipse, all you do is activate it. We'll talk about the Dryad later. So now I am in an Eclipse for 15 seconds. And, again, talent. You can get up to 2 charges on stock for your Eclipses. And with a 30-second recharge. Get back in my chair. So, overall, we'll discuss what I think this means for us in just a little bit. But then, going through the rest of the list, we have our Shooting Stars, Solar Beam, Force of Nature by itself. They have gotten rid of Warriors of Elune on the choice node, so it is just strictly no more Warrior of Elune. Solstice, we've had that. Twin Moons, we've had that. Astral Kindling, increased duration of Sunfire, Moonfire, will be really good for our Mythic Plus as usual. And the Meteor Storm. I think this is a new one, where Starfall deals its damage 100% faster. So that could be, I personally would probably still go Astral Kindling on my Mythic Plus because I like to keep that refresh. But in burst scenarios, I could see a case for Meteor Storm. Umbral Intensity, you have your Solar Eclipse Solar Eclipse increases Wrath damage by 10%. Lunar Eclipse increases Starfire damage by additional 10%. So, general buffs. I think that's slightly changed. Nature's Balance, gaining Astral Power. Improved Eclipse. This is what I was talking about. Lunar Eclipse and Solar Eclipse has one additional charge. So you get to have 2 in stock for your combat. Wild Surges. Wrath and Starfire have a chance to critically strike is increased by 10%, and they generate 2 additional astral power. So, more astral power generation. It's always great. Then we have our Celestial Alignment. Everyone loves that. Soul of the Forest. And it also, Celestial Alignment is just automatically granted 2 charges. So that's something. I think that's also tied into my Whirling Stars. Soul of the Forest. Solar Eclipse increases Wrath astral power generation by 50. Lunar Eclipse increases Star Power's astral power generation by 50. And then we have our mushrooms. So I've also got Sunseeker because it's one less thing I have to worry about versus Wild. Still application. Star Surge increases damage from the target from your periodic effect and shooting stars by 20% for 5 seconds. Reapplying this effect extends its duration up to 20. So, you know, one of those things that always is on there. And then we have our Whirling Stars, which makes Celestial Alignment 2 charges, and the cooldown reduced to 90 seconds, but the duration is reduced by 20 seconds, or 20%. And, or if you wanted to choose the other one, Orbital Strike, which, who picks that? I don't know. If you want to pick that, go for it. Test it. Then we have Touch the Cosmos, which makes the, casting Wrath makes Star Surge, Starfall free. Casting Starfire has a chance to make Star Surge, Starfall free. Meteorites. This is we've had this, but I think they just renamed it. Every time Starfall deals damage, a meteorite falls on the target, dealing damage. I think that was on this side of the track last time. I'll have to see. Cosmic Rapidity. Moonfire and Sunfire deal its damage 25% more frequently, and increasing the rate shooting stars fall. Celestial Fire, the dots do more damage. Astral Communion, passive, increases maximum astral power by 20, and entering Eclipse reduces the cost of Star Surge or Starfall by 15. Hail of Stars, casting Star Surge or Starfall grants Solstice for 3 seconds. Star Lord, obviously one of those things that we love the most, right? The haste increase, that doesn't stack. Then Goldrin. Everyone loves Goldrin in single target. Then you have your choice between Star Surge to make Starfall free or Starfall make Star Surge free. Or more importantly, Rattle the Stars, which Star Surge and Starfall deal 8% more damage and the cost is reduced by 10. And then a new thing on our list, Total Eclipse. Entering Eclipse has a it's a 2 rank thing, so it's probably 10% to 20%. Entering Eclipse has a 20% chance to grant the benefit of both solar and lunar effects. So that means you have a 20% chance every time you hit that Eclipse button to enter a Celestial Alignment state, minus the haste buff. Which, cool. I mean, for those clutch situations, it could always be useful, but it's one of those things where it's like, it's not going to hurt. Then, Balance of All Things, the increasing critical strike chance, which, honestly, with how much crit stuff we're kind of seeing in this spec, may be getting a bit more useful this expansion. Then we have our split tier of Sundered Filament to create every other Eclipse grants Fury of Elune, which honestly could be a lot more effective, seeing that we can trigger Eclipse a lot more commonly. So this might be something worth looking into. And then, of course, Aura Breaker. Every 30th shooting star calls down a full moon. We'll have to see, really do a timing on with how much haste stuff with, like, Cosmic Rapidity and all these things up here. How much shooting star or, like, Aura Breaker will trigger. Sculpt the Stars. The cooldown of lunar and solar eclipse are reduced by 2 seconds. Then we have some split nodes, because usually we've always had Nature's Grace, which when the eclipse ends, or when you enter combat, enter a dream state, reducing the cast time of your next 2 Starfires or Wraths by 40%. I think we have this just on natural for our current state, but they given us a choice node here. Elune's Challenge. When you exit Eclipse with less than 40 astral power, Wrath and Starfire's cast times are reduced by 25% for 15 seconds, or until you enter an Eclipse. And honestly, this is kind of one of those things where the current thing is you get 2 free casts easy, which works great for the current Balance Druid because you have to cast 2 spells to enter an Eclipse of the opposite type, and you don't have to do that anymore. So this is still a 40% increased cast time, but if you really time your astral power like resources right, and you know you're entering Eclipse and you spend everything, you can get 15 free seconds of increased cast time, like reduced cast times on your spells while you are in a non-eclipse state. Because now, again, as we talked about before, you trigger your own eclipse states, so you can get free. Sure, you don't get the benefits of the eclipse, but you do get the faster cast times to compensate for that. So that could be really something to play around with. Then we have our split choice as always: Incarnation or Convoke. I always love me some Convoke, but I can see how Incarnation may still be useful. And then we have the other split node: Fury of Elune and New Moon. These two are still required for the Elune's warrior heroes tree, just much as Force of Nature is required for Keeper of the Grove. And then down here at the very bottom, our keystone, our Umbral Embrace, which Wrath and Starfire has a 20% chance to cause your next Wrath or Starfire to be astral and deal 75% more damage. Army of the Heavens, Star Surge or Starfall increases your current Eclipse or Arcanes and Nature's damage bonus by up 2%, up to 6%. Elune's Guidance, Empower, Incarn, or Convoke. Fairy Dragons are down here at the Capex as well. Kind of locked between either using your Incarn or New Moon, Fuel Moon. So effectively, once you get more talent points, a free pick. And then Radiant Moonlight, which is there to empower Fury or New Moon. Then, before we go on to Hero, our new Apex talents that we got, and we'll show those off here in a little bit when we go out to the test dummy. So these will be here for every Balance Druid, regardless of their hero tree. We have Ascended Eclipses. Activating an Eclipse will make your next Starfire or Wrath instant, and the first 3 Star Surges or Starfalls you cast during each Eclipse deals 20% increased damage. So what this means is, well, every time you hit your Eclipse, your first Wrath or Starfire is instant. And then your Star Surges and Starfalls, 20% increased damage, your first 3. Then they changed the name, but Smoldering whatever got thrown over here into Ascended Eclipses. Your critical strikes deal an Eclipse cause the victims to languish for an additional 40% of their damage dealt for 6 seconds. I think it's probably 20, then 40. But, stacking tiered. But the big thing beyond Smolder here, for the Ascending Eclipses, they really just named them all the same, didn't they? So the final tier tree. Entering an Eclipse launches a solar or lunar bolts at enemies within 40 yards that always critically strike. So if you enter Solar Eclipse, you'll launch a single bolt that deals almost 4,000 damage, nature damage. But if you're in Lunar Eclipse, you'll launch 3 lunar bolts that deal 500 arcane damage, reduced among 5 targets. It's kind of weird phrasing. You launch 3 bolts, but it deals less damage against 5 targets. Like what? This, and you'll be able to see this at the range, where you'll see a fancy little bolt go out and strike targets. And yes, I've already tested this, that if you're in a single target situation and you trigger a lunar eclipse, you get 3 bolts, all 3 bolts will hit the same single target. And yes, if you cast Celestial Alignment, it will trigger all 4 bolts all at once. So that is definitely something that is worth looking into. And again, they always critically strike, so anything you have that deals with crits, even better. Now, some of the changes to our hero trees here. So I'm currently in Keeper of the Grove, and most of it remains unchanged. So you have your Dream Surge, so when you cast Force of Nature, you get 3 bursts of damage, which are, always great. Then over here, on the left-hand side, we have Tree into the Moon. Treants cast Moonfire. I mean, it's a perfect spell. Nothing really to complain there. Then we have our Power of Nature and Durability. So Force of Nature no longer taunt and deal increased melee, or Force Treants have 50% increased health. Nothing changed there. And then we have Bounteous Bloom and Early Spring. Your Force of Nature Treants generate 10 astral power every 2 seconds, or the cooldown is reduced by 15 seconds. I could honestly see a case here where having the astral power could be more beneficial than having the shortened cooldown, but it's kind of... We'll have to see how that all plays out with balancing cooldowns and all that stuff. You know, the second talent tree, which I haven't picked anything yet because, well, I'm only level 81, and they don't give you all the talent points yet. Expansiveness. Your maximum mana is increased by 5, and your maximum astral power is increased by 20. So just effectively another astral communion there. Then Cenarius' Might. Entering Eclipse increases your haste by 12% for 6 seconds. You always gotta love some haste, which will really benefit really well with Star-Lord, as long as you keep your Star-Lord up. Then down here at the very bottom, we have our Power of the Dream and Control of the Dream, which is the gain 1 more stack of Dream Burst, or the cooldown reduction. And over here, on the third tier, Regrowth protects you, reducing damage taken on you by 8% while your Regrowth is on you, so a damage reduce while you have Regrowth. And you'll see at the very least for the Keeper, that can be played around with really well here. Then we have our Grove Inspiration, which is the increased damage of the Wrath Starfire or the healing. And Orbital Strike applies Stellar Flare, or Whirling Stars reduces cooldown of Celestial Alignment by an additional 10 seconds. So Whirling Star again right over here, which changes Celestial Alignment into 2 charges. And then Blooming Infusion, which I'm talking about up there. Every 5 regrowths you cast makes Wrath Starfire and Tangling Roots instant and increases damage by 100%, or every 5 Star Surges or Star Falls you cast makes your next regrowth or Entangling Root instant. So this, along with Protective Growth, can be really good if you have Regrowth hotkeyed, so that basically every time you do your 5 casts, you get your free regrowth. So as long as you hit your regrowth, you get 8% damage reduction, which, hey, we'll take that. I always feel like I'm squishy, so... Now, as you saw when I hit my Eclipse button, Sylvian Beckoning. Enter an Eclipse summons the Dryad to assist you for 8 seconds. Casting Star Surge, dealing 3,000 damage, and Starfall at 300% effectiveness. Effectively, the set tier from the last raid there, summoning the Dryads. Dryad Dance. Dryads cause most of your astral power generation to increase by 10%. And Spirit of the Thicket. Your Starfall damage is increased by 8%, and your Star Surge damage increased by 8%. And then the capstone, Harmony of the Grove. Each Force of Nature Treant increases damage of your spells dealt by 8%. So overall, this is definitely still leaning heavily into the Friends of the Grove and all that stuff. Keeper of the Grove, it's definitely, honestly, just more power, effectively. Just the Dryads dealing more damage, more astral generation, more damage. It's definitely making us feel more and more powerful with all that stuff. But let's go ahead and take a look at Elune's Chosen. So, while Keeper of the Grove I still see as a single target kind of class, Elune's Chosen still very much leans into the more AoE kind of stuff for your Mythic Plus. But Boundless Moonlight, which empowers your Fear of Elune or Full Moon, nothing changed there. Moon Guardian. Moonfire and Starfire generate 2 additional astral power. Lunar Amplification. Each non-arcane damaging ability you use increases the damage of your next arcane damaging ability by 3%, stacking up to 3 times. I'll have to do some testing, and we may do that a little bit later. If that counts as Astral, if Astral will do that, or if it's going to maybe like specifically main Nature. Because then it's like, if you don't need Nature and you can just do it off of Astral, it's like, you could almost see like, cast Starfall 3 times in a row, and your next Astral ability is empowered by 9% every time. Then down here, Stellar Command or Lunar Calling. Stellar Command increased the damage of Fear of the Elune by 15 and damage of Full Moon by 25. Or Starfire's increases 100% damage to its primary target. Wrath no longer changes your Eclipse to Solar. So this is kind of what we have in Elune's Chosen now, where you'll no longer trigger a Solar when you want to. So Lunar Calling effectively plays that same role, where you'll no longer accidentally be in a solar state when you want to be in lunar for Lune's Chosen for most of the time. Next line here, Lunar Insight. Moonfire deals 20% additional damage. Atmospheric Exposure. Enemies deal damage by full moon or fury take 6% increased damage from you for 6 seconds. Another damage ramp. And then we have our split node, Light of Elune or Astral Insight. Passively, Light of Elune, Moonfire damage has a chance to call down Fury for 3 seconds. Or Astral Insight empowers Convoke or Elune Incarnation. So Chosen of Elune increases arcane damage from spells by 10%, or Convoke at more duration and number of spells cast. Our third tree here, Glistening Fur. Bear form and Moonkin form reduce all arcane damage taken by 6 and all other magic taken by 3. It seems more of like a good comparison to protective growth, so that basically both sides always have some form of protection, while Glistening Fur is definitely less than protective. Glistening is always active, while protective growth you have to trigger yourself. Then you have Moon Dust or Elune's Grace. Moon Dust, enemies slowed by Moonfire are slowed by 20%, and Elune's Grace, using Wild Charge while in bear form or Moonkin form, incurs a 3-second shorter cooldown. Honestly, I'll probably just pick Moon Dust, because just a straight 20% slow speed is always good. And then we have Arcane Affinity or Illumination. Arcane Affinity, all arcane damage from your spells increased by 3%, or Illumination. Your arcane abilities reduce the cooldown of Fury of Elune by 2 seconds, and cooldown of New Moon, Half Moon, and Full Moon by 1 second. And then our Capstone, more increase to Fury and Full Moon. And then our fourth tree, Under Construction, and Under Construction. So we don't really get to play with that. But yeah, that is so far all the major changes that we have had for Balance Druid. Honestly, what I'm currently seeing with how this is going to work for us is the fact that we may be effectively bouncing eclipses between our standard eclipse button and celestial alignment button. So that way we're always kind of going in and out of eclipses whenever we feel like it. And since we can also trigger eclipses when we need to, there's no need to really punish ourselves by not using it when we know that like a boss's ability is going to force us to move and not benefit from eclipses. But let's go ahead and we will go and see the target dummy to go test out these abilities. And here we are at the training dummy. Before we get started, I'd like to at least bring up an edit mode where some of the stuff that has been added that are currently broken, I should probably make a report about it. So there has been some increases in with the announcements of weak ores no longer being available, which I've never used weak ores, so it's not much of an effect for me. I'm sorry for those that did use them a lot though. But we do have our various internal like cooldown trackers that we have had. So we do have utility cooldowns, which will show us our not as needed stuff. So bark skin, the dash, revive, innervate, all those are there available for you. You have a personal resource display, which you can customize and show as you need. And then you have your essential cooldowns as well, which will show wrath, all that stuff. We have our tracked bars, which I would probably be using the most to be tracking the eclipses and Star-Lord as best as I can. And you also have tracked buffs. And there is also the damage meters in the game. Except it's not. It will not show up. It's there, but it's not. I'm going to blame Alpha on that one. But at the same time, there's one last thing I'd like to show you. Over here on the edit mode, you can see cooldown tracker manager options and advanced cooldown settings. So you can see it will list out all of the essential cooldowns you have, all utilities, and currently not displayed, which you can actually drag these up there. So if I could probably show these more, and I don't know what exactly this would show, to what extent, but since it doesn't show to begin with. But also, just as importantly, you can track your buffs. So here you can track your spells, but here you can also track your buffs. So this would be in the tracked buff. So you have your tracked bars for your abilities. And here you can also track your Owlkin Frenzy, Nature's Grace, Celestial Alignment, Warrior of Elune, which doesn't exist, Touch of the Cosmos, Star Weaver, Umbral Embrace, but you can also have on it tracked Starfall, Solstice, Balance of All Things, Ascended Eclipses, Dream Surge, all these abilities you can also just drag on up here and be a part of the tracked buff list when they show up. So everything's there. Like, they have, at the very minimum, done their best to help eliminate that need of weak auras. Now, of course, this hunter's already gone in and interrupted my flow here, but we'll just go ahead and get started. Well, I do like some peace and quiet. I'm going to borrow this priest here. Give me a buff, I'll give you a buff. So you can see, let's see, turn on my nameplates. So you can see, obviously, the buffs are there, and I can cast Wrath and Starfire with nothing changing. But that all changes, and you'll see the, I mentioned the Ascended Eclipse, where you see the bolts. So right now, you can actually see, we look down here at the eclipses, you can see it changing between solar and lunar, based on casting Wrath or Starfire. So let's first enter into Solar Eclipse. And then you saw a bolt just kind of going there. You see the Dryad out here assisting. It casts Starfall. It's casting bolts. Then we have, our Treants. Burst of Nature. Then everyone's favorite, Convoke. And I'll take a step back, and I'm going to go ahead and hit Celestial Alignment so you can really get a view of that Celestial extra bursts. So all those you saw there was that extra little burst of damage, and then triggering, of course, all the eclipses, increasing the damage. Huh. Blue arrow over mousing over the buff bar. Okay, and right here you can really see Elune's challenge and how much is increasing the haste, the cast time. I don't really. Let's get that again. So my eclipse is ending in 2, 1. Oh, I didn't have enough reduced. So you have to be under 40. And this is actually activated both eclipses. Then I have entered challenge, and very fast. So yeah, I can see, okay, ended, enter eclipse. Spend everything. Get Elune's challenge, and back to fast casting. And then I'm out of eclipse. It's like, okay, challenge is ending. enter Celestial Alignment to activate my next Eclipse. A little bit of Elune's Challenge to buffer. Enter Eclipse. Elune's Challenge. And Celestial Alignment. And I still have one charge of Lunar Eclipse, like Eclipse going on there. It's about to be 2. And I have 30 seconds on Celestial Alignment. So I can class Eclipse, be an Eclipse. Out of Eclipse into Challenge. Celestial Alignment's on 5 seconds. But enter Standard Eclipse. And Standard Eclipse is getting almost another charge back again here shortly. Out of Eclipse, I was not in Challenge, so screwed that up. But then, again, back into Celestial Alignment. So this is kind of how I'm picturing how Balance Druids are going to be played from here on, is bouncing our Eclipses between Standard Eclipse and Celestial Alignment to always try to keep ourselves in that state. But we can kind of supplement ourselves with Nature's Grace or Elune's Challenge to help compensate for the times we are not in Eclipse state. But let's go ahead and let's trigger this. Actually, let me see. Let's go ahead and name this. Get an M+ target. Activate Moon Dust. Yeah, I'll go ahead and I'll get this changed out real quick, and we'll be right back. All right, and welcome back. So I've picked out some talents. In introduction, I haven't really done any. I'm not really the person to do number testing or anything like that too much, but overall, I have picked every single standard talent here. So I've chosen the reduced cooldown when casting arcane abilities. Incarn increased by all of its Incarn and Convoke increased damage. Moonfire slows. And Starfire deals increased damage, and we can't enter Solar Eclipse on accident. And as for my standard and Mythic Plus talents, I have Astral Kindling, which increases the rate of my Moonfires and Sunfires, or increases the durations of them. Picked Meteorites, Rattle the Stars. Not a whole lot. Like, I didn't pick Stellar Amplification because I won't be casting Star Surge as much, so that won't have as much effect. But it's fine because we needed that to get Fury Balloon, and I have Radiant Moonlight, which increases the new moon the things a bit more powerfully. I still have Convoke for now. And with some more points, also I forgot I didn't even pick. Gosh darn it, I forgot to get my Apex talents. Be right back. Alright, after careful thinking to get to my new Apex, I have sacrificed Total Eclipse, which, to be fair, I don't think I'm really going to be needing too much here. And I've had to sacrifice Incarnation or Convoke for right now. Again, with more levels, you'll get more talent points to choose in these trees, so we should be able to get some more of these spells here shortly enough to be able to play around with. But need to play with this. I have mostly everything here. Let's move that. Won't need that. I probably put Starfall there. Everything. Those are all lined up. Okay. So, training dummy. Elune. Eclipse. Starfall. And we entered challenge. Enter. I have at least noticed that you can't actually hit your Eclipse button when you're in, like, Celestial. Really, it's not too much more different than what we've got going on, where you're just spamming your spells. You know, Starfire to hit your AoE, spam everything in Starfall, keep your dots refreshed. And then every single time you cast both Starfire and Starfall, you're reducing Fury of Elune's cooldown rate. It's definitely harder for me to keep that under 40 for Elune's challenge. I probably should have casted Eclipse there, because Eclipse is not on cooldown. Yeah, seeing how I'm not able to keep Warrior of Elune active, the multi-target may be more... Nature's Grace might be more better for the Mythic Plus, since I can't seem to reliably keep Elune's challenge active. And I did pick my Denizen of the Dream. I wish I had the numbers to really show, the damage meters to show. But yeah, I think this is probably a good show of what Balance Druid is currently looking like in Midnight. Honestly, it's a little bit of a learning curve, but I think we are definitely in a state where we might be in a good place for now. Especially since we can trigger, you know, our big burst moments when we need to. But that's all I got for now. If you have any other kind of questions, you're more than welcome to leave it on in the comments. But yeah, thanks for watching. Until next time.